good friend Ken Dunek is up in Canton, Ohio for the induction ceremony for Harold Carmicheal. Number 17 is getting inducted tonight at 6:30. So let's go to the Barb's Harley-Davidson Sports Hotline and welcome into the locker room our good friend Ken Dunek. How you doing, Ken?
Billy, good morning. How are you? It's a special day to be an Eagle, I'll tell you.
Well, you just sent me a picture. And you guys look like you're having just such a great time and a great place, a great event for your good buddy Harold Carmicheal.
Yes. Well, yesterday, myself, Keith Krefley, who was the starting tight end in that 1980 team, John Spagnola, and Kevin Riley, who was a linebacker in the 70s, we all jumped in my SUV and we drove to Canton, and we toured the Hall of Fame yesterday, and we saw where Harold's plaque or his bust is going to be. I was honored by the Hall of Fame putting my jersey in the USFL exhibit, so I backed my way into the Hall of Fame, and that was the only way I was going to get there. But I'm happy to be there any way I can. But we had a great night. We saw Bill Bradley, the old Eagle, last night. We had dinner. We're, canvassing around Ohio. This morning, I ducked out of a breakfast with Dick Vermeil and the rest of the guys, and they're still in there. We figured we got there at about 9:30. We figured the breakfast would be over at 10:30. We're still telling stories at 11:30. I had to jump in my car to do this interview. So there's a lot of interesting things going on around here.
Well, Ken, we really appreciate you taking time. Obviously, you're up there enjoying such a wonderful area. I've never been to Canton. Is this your first time visiting Canton?
No, I actually played in a Hall of Fame game for the Baltimore Colts in 1982 and got to tour the Hall of Fame at that time. And then, but this is my first trip back in almost 40 years. So it's pretty neat. Now,
Ken, talk about Harold Carmicheal. Played with the Eagles from 1971 to 1983. At one point, he had a record for the most consecutive catches in a game in a row at 127. That record's since been broken. But just to show you what type of player, 6'8", he was a defensive back's nightmare.
He was, he really the fade route could have been attributed to Harold Carmicheal because he was so tall that a defensive back just couldn't get up there to cover him. And you talk about the streak. I was standing on the sideline for that Dallas game when Dennis Thurman laid Harold out in one of the most vicious, brutal hits I've ever seen, and Harold landed right on the small of his back and knocked him out of the game early on, and he couldn't continue the streak. But I was standing right there. I'll tell you something about Harold Carmicheal. He was a great player, right? He is an even better person. He was so kind and so generous to me as a rookie. He treated me like an equal, and for the last 40 years, nothing has changed. He's just a humble and wonderful human being. And when the opportunity came, I said to my wife, I said, listen, I have to go. I have to go to Canton to be there for Harold's moment. So, and a lot of the ex-Eagles are here. I know John Bunning is coming in, Jerry Robinson, Guy Morris, guys that I haven't seen in many, many years. So haven't seen them yet, but we're looking forward to getting together this afternoon. And then I believe the induction ceremony starts at 6:30 tonight.
And, of course, Ken, we've had Jerry Robinson and a couple of the other guys you mentioned on our pregame show last year. So you'll get actually a chance to see them in person. Hey, I was wondering, is Harold Carmicheal, was he like a gentle giant? Like, because he's so nice and so, reserved. What was he like on the field? Did he have a mean streak on the field?
No. He was just he was such a nice person. You would think he would be too nice to play pro football, but when the game started, okay, he was laser focused, and he just had tremendous physical tools. There aren't too many players in the history of the NFL that played wide receiver at 6'8", right? And so when he came into the league, he kind of would rewrite the way that offenses worked. And, quarterbacks didn't throw the lob ball back then because all the wide receivers were 5'11". Well, now you got a 6'8" guy, and you're throwing it up for grabs, and he goes and gets it like LeBron James up there and makes the catch. And, that's really how he built his career. He wasn't overly fast, but I'll tell you what, he had the longest strides of any player I've ever seen. He looked like a gazelle out there when he would catch the ball. He'd eat up 10 yards in 2 steps. It was unbelievable. And but just a great guy, a great talent, and certainly deserving of the Hall of Fame here.
Hey, Ken, it's Scott McKay.
Hey,
who do you
Scott,
think? How are you, buddy? Who do you think in today's game most resembles Harold Carmichael's game?
Boy, you're hitting me with a question I'm not prepared to answer. I'd have to give them some thought. I don't even know of a receiver. I mean, you've got some players that are 6. Actually, the tight ends who are now 6'8" would compare more to Harold, like a Jimmy Graham or somebody like that, a guy that's just tall for his position and can go up and get the football. I can't think of many receivers that are that tall. A few have tried, but certainly none to the success that Harold Carmichael had.
We're talking with Ken Dunek, former Philadelphia Eagle. He's up in Canton, Ohio for the induction, Pro Football Hall of Fame induction of Harold Carmichael. And you look at, Harold finished his career with 590 receptions, 8,985 receiving yards, 79 touchdowns. But that number 17, I remember Pat Fisher, a little defensive back for the Cardinals. Did he play for the Cardinals, Ken? Was it Pat Fisher?
I believe he did, yeah.
He always had I always remember those battles because he was a smaller defensive back. And
well, I mean, how you going to defend him? How you going to guard him? I mean, it's almost like a guard in basketball trying to defend a center. It just right. Doesn't work, and that's why that matchup was so effective for the Eagles' offense.
So, Ken, you're up there at Canton. You're with your former teammates. Stories are you're just hearing the greatest stories. What's it like for you to go back and spend time with the team, the 1980 team?
Yeah, I mean, listen, my background, a lot of people know it. I was a basketball player in college. I'd never played high school football. I walk onto the Eagles, and Krefli and Spagnuolo got nicked in training camp, so I got to play in a few games and showed the coaches enough where they decided to keep me. Unfortunately, I was released the next year. So just being in that environment, the pro football Eagles environment, and then having that team go to the Super Bowl was incredibly special. I've got the NFC Championship ring. I wear it with pride. But for me to be a member of that team, it was just a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And, I had some success as I moved on with the Colts and Giants and, of course, the Philadelphia Stars for 3 years. But being, a part, Dick Vermeil giving me a chance to fulfill my pro football dream was just incredible. And, it's funny, I just paid the bill for breakfast, and he tried to grab the check. I said, listen, Coach, I'm 64 years old. I'm going to buy you something for the first time ever. So I took great pride in grabbing the breakfast check, and because he's just a wonderful guy, so generous, and, he sends me his Vermeil wine all the time. And
I wish I could be a fly on the wall there. I wish I could be a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
Hey, Ken,
funny thing that a lot of these people are sitting around this table, and they're finally figuring out who we are. We're in Ohio. Nobody really remembers us or Dick Vermeil, but all of a sudden they're hearing the conversations and they're trying to jump in. It's pretty funny.
Ken, the Eagles, back in Harold's early career, they brought in Boyd Dowler, who had a tremendous 13-year NFL career, to be the wide receivers coach. How much of an impact do you think that had on Harold?
Yeah, when I was talking to Keith Krefli about Boyd Dowler, Keith wasn't that enamored with Boyd Dowler as a coach. I think Dowler, because of his success in Green Bay, may have had a little bit of an elitist attitude and really didn't relate to Krefli that well. I never talked to Harold about Boyd Dowler, but certainly Dowler's success on the field warranted him being a coach in the NFL. I don't know enough about their relationship to answer your question effectively. All I know is that I watched Boyd Dowler play football as a kid, and he was a tremendous player.
Ken, I watched the Pro Football Hall of Fame game the other night, Thursday night, Pittsburgh against the Cowboys. There was a lot of lot of MVPs, a lot of Pro Bowlers in the audience or in the stands. Have you had a chance to run into a lot of people while you're in Canton so far?
Not yet. I'll see everybody tonight at the induction ceremony, but they had the Gold Jacket dinner last night. Coach Carmicheal went, and he was telling us a little bit about it. We decided not to go. We had dinner on our own, and we decided to partake in the festivities tonight. So I am looking forward to seeing not only my old teammates, but all these great players in NFL history tonight. It's going to be pretty special. I'm looking forward to it.
Ken, listen, we really appreciate you taking time. We're going to let you get back to the storytelling. I wish I was there, man, because there's nothing like hearing some of those stories from years past. You're going to be just living it all over again.
Yeah, well, listen, if I should have videoed it, but I'd have to bleep out too much stuff. Some pretty crazy stories being talked about. It probably would have been a Netflix special if I could recorded the whole thing in its entirety. But happy to be on with you, Billy, and look forward to doing some stuff with you this football season.
Yeah, you obviously, we do the Eagles pregame show. We do our live remotes. Ken Dunek and I hopefully we'll have something going on for you. I'll be in touch. Ken, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and just thank you so much for calling in.
Okay, guys, take care.